Hi, this is Mr. Mike for the Mechanicsburg Learning Center with another episode of Mr. Mike's Dino-A-Day. Thanks so much for watching, and thanks so much for sharing these on Facebook and watching the YouTube channel called Mr. Mike Sgrignoli. So, episode number 32, we're going to start with a dinosaur that, again, as I've been saying since we began this, needs a lot more attention and fame. This one is called the Troodon. It's been pronounced Troodon, Troodon. I've seen it about 5 different ways, and the last way that I saw it pronounced that I'm going to use today is Troodon. So Troodon means wounding tooth. It was discovered in 1855 and named in 1856 after one single tooth. So this entire genus got its name from a single tooth, which was not very large to begin with. Lived about 75 to 65 million years ago, and 65 million years ago rings a bell. That was right around the time, 66 million years ago, that the giant meteor struck the Earth and changed everything for the dinosaurs. So, what do we know about Troodon? Let's take a look at him. Well, you know what? I'll take it off here and show it to you. The Troodon had, if you can see by this picture, extremely large eyes. And when you have an animal with large eyes, that means a couple of things. It probably had good eyesight, and it could probably see very well in the dark. And in fact, it did. It was probably a night hunter, which gave it a particular advantage over the much, much larger animals. This guy was only about, let's see, maybe I've seen different estimates because there's 2 different species of it. Some as tall as 3 feet, other as tall as 6 feet. So let's put it in the neighborhood of 4 to 5 feet tall and maybe 10, 11, maybe 12 feet long, including its tail. It had very sharp claws. It had very sharp teeth. Not big teeth, but sharp teeth. And as I was saying, the reason it had an advantage over the larger predators, the larger theropods like T-Rex, was the fact that it hunted at night. We believe the other animals just hunted during the day. So this would go out at night, grab something to eat, drag it home, and then have, a late night snack and something wonderful for breakfast. So that is the Troodon. Now, I'll put him right back here. You good? Stay. Okay. It was very fast. It had to be. It had a very strong legs. Had to be fast to catch the smaller animals that it was going after. It wasn't going after big herbivores. It was going after those little tiny early mammals that would scoot around in the evening. And it may have eaten some plants. It could have been omnivorous, but we think that it probably went after meat. It also had great hearing, and one of the reports I read showed that its ears actually were a little bit different height. One sat a little bit higher, which is the only other animal we've seen that in is an owl. So Troodon was a very interesting animal, and the thing that most people cling to when they ever hear about this animal is the fact that it had an extremely large brain case for the size of its animal. Now, if you would compare the size of the Troodon brain to our brain's much larger. But in comparison to the body size, that's how they look at animals. If it has this size body and this size brain, it would have a huge brain. But if it had this size brain and a gigantic animal, it probably would not be that intelligent. So based on the size of the brain case, which is the opening where the brain used to be, because the brain's no longer around, all we find are bones. If we just look at that, we find that it had probably one of the biggest brains in compared to the rest of its size as to any other dinosaur. So therefore, we say that it's probably the smartest dinosaur. So again, 75 to 65 million years ago, it was named based solely on one single tooth. And since that time, there's been a lot of confusion whether it belonged to its own genus or was it some other dinosaur. But we've come to the conclusion that, in fact, the Troodon was, in fact, its own genus and had its own couple of different species. So that's what we know about it. And we're going to now recite the poem that I wrote last evening specifically for the very clever and smart Troodon. Once again, before we do this, I want to thank you guys for watching every day. We want to thank you for going to our YouTube page and watching that, and for sharing these videos on Facebook. Troodon by Mr. Mike. How clever were those dinosaurs from eons long gone past? It's hard to say because their brains weren't tough enough to last. So we take long, hard looks and measurements of their brain case and calculate how large their brains would be based on that space. The Troodon would take the prize for which dino produced the biggest brain and therefore would be smartest, we've deduced. Its eyes were wide and oversized, which gave it perfect sight. This also meant that it was good at hunting overnight. Its hearing was superb, and Troodon could get around on big, strong legs, which let it quickly cover lots of ground. Its teeth were small and very sharp to help it find a meal, and each tooth was serrated like a steak knife made of steel. So did the Troodon do lots of thinking with that brain, or did it take it easy and avoid that kind of strain? We think that it would certainly outsmart the larger beasts, who spent their days attempting to arrange the next day's feasts. So Troodon has helped convince the world that dinosaurs had brains that could produce some thoughts, just not like mine or yours. Compared to us, the Troodon was still a bit behind, but it was on its way to have a fairly decent mind. So if that meteor had never crashed into the Earth and snuffed out all the dinos, we believe, for what it's worth, the Troodon would just have kept evolving ever more and taken its rightful place as the world's smartest dinosaur. The Troodon, perhaps the smartest dinosaur that ever lived. On episode 32 of Mr. Mike's Dino-A-Day, brought to you by the Mechanicsburg Learning Center. So remember to subscribe to our YouTube page, share these videos on Facebook so other folks can learn about dinosaurs too. Thank you, and we will do it again tomorrow live on Facebook, 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time for the Mechanicsburg Learning Center. Until then, have a great Dino Day.